and welcome back to my channel. If you're new around here, hi, I'm Ginny and I glue little pieces of paper to other little pieces of paper, and I think it's fun to share my projects here with you on my channel. If that's something that interests you, make sure you hit that subscribe button to join our crafty little family. And for today's project, we have a hybrid. This is a fancy fold with a pocket on the front, and so I'm using a very beautiful nature-inspired woodland theme Christmas collection. I've got a large pocket in the back for an insert, and I used one of the Shabby Woodland Christmas tags. That's a printable from my very own shop. And of course, we have finished the inside of this card as well with the beautiful collection paper. So stick with me and we will make this together. So for today's project, I'm going to be using my Shabby Woodland Christmas tag printable. And I have just opened this file in a Word document and printed it exactly as it is designed. I didn't change the size or anything. I went ahead and printed the whole page because I know I will be able to utilize all of these tags for my upcoming projects. And so I really love the soft, sweet colors, and it's very nature inspired, very woodland inspired. And so I'm going to pair that with my cozy winter paper pad. This is from P13. And I picked up the 12 by 12 paper pad. I just love how clean and fresh and bright it is. It's very woodland inspired, a lot of nature scenes, and so this has just quite a lot of the different patterns here, along with a cut apart sheet. So if you didn't pick up the ephemera pack, you can still use this cut apart to layer and create scenes. Now, some of the paper collections I've been picking up more recently have a larger pattern, very dimensional. So I'm having to come up with different plans for some of my projects where I would be using a fun fold. I don't want a chair to be upside down or a tree to be upside down. So I'm kind of adapting my tutorials toward some of these larger, more directional patterns. And I think that if you get the Cozy Winter collection, you really love it. I picked mine up from scrapbook.com. And so for today's project, it's more of a hybrid than just a fancy fold card. And I'm going to start with this base. So we're going to create a pocket. This will look familiar to you if you watched the 13 Days of Halloween series. We created a pocket and then added another pocket on the front of it so that we could really load it up with all of the different inserts. And so for today's project, this is going to be a pocket, but we're going to add it to a card front. So it's kind of a hybrid, and I'm just going to share the process with you on this piece of scrap paper because I was able to mark my lines. And so to begin with, this pocket is 7 inches high by 12 inches wide. And when we go to the project, I'm going to be using the collection paper. I'm not going to cardstock first. So you'll pick a pattern paper for this pocket itself. And so I have scored it at 1/2 inch. And then I turned it and I scored it at 3.5 inches and then also at 8.5 inches. Now you can see I have also drawn some lines on here, and this is to indicate where I'll be removing some of the paper and where some of the folds are going to go. So as you can see, I've taken the top of my 8.5 inch fold and run it all the way down to the outside edge. Because this is marked, you can see this is what I'm going to be removing. So when you do this, you want to take your time to get this cut very nicely and straight. I'm just working through here quickly so that you can see the process. So now this is going to be the right-hand side of the flap in the front. And then I want to cut along my score line again, but this time I'm going to turn it and cut off the portion that is on the bottom. So we're going to wind up with a tab in the center. So I'm going to go ahead and do both sides here. Okay, so now you can see what we have is the shape for our pockets. The first thing I want to do is fold up that bottom score line and give it a good crease. If you have your bone folder, go ahead and use that because you want a good crisp crease on the bottom. And I'm just going to come in and nip a little bit of that off because I don't want any excess to bulk up that seam. So I'm not taking off too much, but just enough to remove all of that added extra paper layer. So what you want to do now is go ahead and fold on your score lines, and this measurement is going to produce a pocket that is 5 by 6.5 inches. Now you see, because I didn't take my time and cut that very well, it's not even on the bottom, but yours will be because you don't have to talk and cut at the same time. So here's going to be the pocket. Okay, so here's the one that I prepared in advance, and you can see that I did cut that from my collection paper, and I am making sure to keep the scripty font in the background facing up. So I can't fold it top to bottom, but I can fold the sides in without affecting the pattern. And I have already prepared the insert that will cover the back of this portion. And so this is going to measure 5 by 6.5. Now, when I was cutting this, I did go ahead and shave off just a little sliver of each side so that I could get it to fold correctly. And I'm just going to add that right to the back. This is a good idea to do this now before you close up your pocket, because it would be difficult to get that all the way down in there with the adhesive on it. Okay, so now I have folded up the flap on the bottom, and you can see that I have adhesive all the way across the bottom. So I'm just going to go ahead and fold over my right hand side. It goes past the middle, and so this will create the right hand side. And then I've put some adhesive on the back of this flap so that it will seal up this left hand side. Now you can see it's nice and straight across the bottom, and I have already prepared the back with some adhesive, and here is a cardstock border. So I'm going to use the olive cardstock all throughout so that I get a good consistent look. And this is going to be 5 1/8 by 6 5/8. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this a little closer so I can see over it and get this centered. So this is going to be slightly larger than my traditional 5 by 6.5 inch cards. And that's just so that I could include a larger insert. Okay, so this is ready to add to my card base. I'll just peel this tape off very quickly and then pull over my card base. So this, like I mentioned, it's going to be a little bit bigger than my usual 5 by 6.5 inch size. And so the card base is 10.5 inches by 6 3/4, and I scored it at 5 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and add my pocket to the front now. And while I'm working along, I'll go ahead and add the inside portion. So the cardstock for this is cut to be 5 1/8 by 6 5/8, and the pattern paper is 5 inches by 6 1/2. That will give us all of our nice borders. Finish off the inside. I can come back in later and add a portion for sentiment to be added. So before we work on the front, I want to add this insert, and I have cut my cardstock for this to be 4 3/4 by 6 1/4, and the pattern paper is 4 5/8 by 6 1/8, and that will just tuck right down inside. And you can see that I've picked a pattern that has more of the foliage on top so that it would be a nice layering element. Okay, so let's work on this portion here. I've cut a doily from white cardstock, and I'm going to be adding this fairly high. So I'm just going to come in and add my adhesive while I have it in place so that I know exactly where I can get that glue. And I've got one side here, and I'll press that into place and then move it over to the other side. And now that will be firmly attached, and we didn't inadvertently close up our pocket. And I want to add another of those patterns. So this is a very non-contrasting green, and I cut that with a circle that was nested, and then I used the larger size to cut my cardstock border. So this will give me a very nice base for my tag. So this is the tag that I wound up choosing. I love that sweet little owl and the tree and the little polka dot gift. And the reason I chose this particular tag is because the sentiment was on the top. And so when I add all of my foliage, I'm not going to cover that up. So I took my printable and I trimmed it out, leaving a little bit of a white border around, and then I punched an eyelet into the top here and added some twine, and I put all of that on a foam spacer layer. This is going fairly close to the top, and I've got my flowers prepared here. So because this is a very nature inspired project, I didn't want to do any crazy Christmas colors. I wanted them to be soft and nature inspired. So I picked one white poinsettia for the center, and then I built out my layers, working down in size for that Cinch and Go poinsettia die set, and this one is more of a sage green, and then I picked a couple of other greens for my foliage, and this time I did add my twine and my bows here. I put on a couple of these sweet little die cut pine cones, and I created those with my die I picked up from Gina Marie Designs, and there are two bows on the back of this arrangement, so I've just got one on either side here so that it kind of fills in the bottom, and you can see I have this arranged just to cover the very bottom of that tag. So I'll go ahead and add that. And then instead of a traditional Christmas tag, I decided to bring in an owl because it matched the one in the image. So I'll just add one. This is quite large, so I don't want to make it too busy. So I'll add this so that it overlaps just a little bit, securing that string into hot glue, excess, and then cover that cut string with a vintage button, matting that with hot glue as well. I brought down a couple of sequins here. I'm going to put two on the tag and then one down on the base. I'm just using my Tombow to add those sequins. Then I'm coming in with just a little bit of stickles to highlight some of the details. I think I just want to add it just to the bottom layers of that tree, and then possibly a little bit on the gifts. So that's all for my project today. If you enjoyed this pocket front fancy fold greeting card, let me know in the comment section, and make sure to give me a big thumbs up for this project. You can find links for all our social media sites in the description below, as well as for the printable that I used for this card. If you're not already, I would love for you to subscribe, and as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.